if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the
Alrighty, so today's video is going to feature this heat transfer vinyl from HTV Ront. I think I'm pronouncing that right. This vinyl kit comes with a package of vinyl. That's heat transfer vinyl, iron-on vinyl. You also get a little weeding tool, a piece of Teflon for ironing it on to your fabrics, and you get a mat that fits the Cricut machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how I use this vinyl, and then we're going to move on to deconstructing and reconstructing that men's tank top. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down with the colored side down, facing the sticky part of the mat. I'm going to open up my Cricut software, and I am going to pick out one of my own drawings here. You'll see it in just a second. And that's what I'm going to be using to iron on this t-shirt, and I call this my Deadly Daisy. If you're interested in this Deadly Daisy file, you can message me. If I get enough requests for it, I will post it on Etsy and have it for sale for a reasonable price. It is a SVG file ready to cut. And you see here what I'm doing is I'm just getting rid of some of those little lines in the petals because I didn't want to have a whole lot of weeding to do. So you want to make sure it's mirrored and get it set where you want it on the mat, on the software. And then you're going to hit continue. And I'm going to choose everyday iron-on vinyl. So that's just the best one that I've found. It cuts it perfectly. I don't ever have a problem with the cut when I use this for HTV. So I have used a lot of different HTV over the last few years since I've been getting to know the new Cricut and, you know, designing my own files and things like that. And some of the vinyl can be really, really tricky to work with. I'm going to say while I'm doing this here on the video that this isn't my first time working with it. I had another project I was going to do and use this vinyl on, but that project is kind of tedious and I'm running behind because I just started another job. So anyway, I will tell you that I really do love this vinyl. I love the way it weeds. I love that it's just like butter. No issues with it all. And that backing, that clear plastic backing on there is nice and sticky to keep it in place. Any weeding issues I had was due to my really poor eyesight. So, but other than that, this one turned out great. The first one I did, I had a little trouble weeding it because I couldn't see it. But as far as the cut and the weeding procedure, this vinyl is awesome, y'all. Awesome. And the first thing I'm going to do after I've got that weeded is I'm going to iron, and I'm going to use the lint roller to clean that area off really well where I'm going to put my decal. And I think this is cold peel. I'm not sure, but I did let it cool down and it peeled really smooth, really well. You just have to be patient if you're using a home iron, a clothes iron, because you're going to need your setting between mine was between wool and synthetic. I didn't have it all the way up because the very first test I did with this, I burned the vinyl when I had my iron all the way up. But this one did perfect. Look how pretty that Deadly Daisy is. Alright, so you see here I marked with safety pins, and that's because I had my daughter try this on so that I could do a little tailoring. And she didn't want me to stick straight pins in it, so I used safety pins to mark where the pleats for the breast or bust line is going to be. And you're going to see me trying to make a mark here. I ended up using my chalk. And I'm going to go about 3 inches down. You'll see me just a second when I've got that placed where I want it. I'm going to line up those side seams or casings or whatever on the arms and make sure that they are not shifting. I'm going to pin that in place. I'm going to measure 3 inches down and about a 1/2 inch width when it's folded and pinned together. And I'm just going to sew a triangle. I'm going to start at that point where that first pin is there and sew all the way down till it meets that point. And you want to make sure you do your back stitching. Back stitch at the beginning and the end of this, or else it's going to come loose. I think the biggest struggle that I had here was just trying to stay in frame so you all could see what I was doing, and trying to line everything up. And that's what you're going to see me doing here with that first dart that I made. I'm going to fold over the second armhole and try to line those darts up even though we all know that boobies ain't always even. I was trying to get them as lined up as I could just to make everything look, you know, well put together. So I'm going to line that up and do the same thing I did with the first one. Once I've got it lined up, I'm going to measure down 3 inches, mark a little over 1/2 inch over, and mark with pins. Just helps me keep everything in place really well. And I'm sewing that, and you notice when I'm done sewing both of those darts, I do cut because they're folded over, and that's going to be kind of uncomfortable if you don't cut that selvage off of there. And this is the safety pin where I marked how cropped my daughter wanted the top. So I had decided as I was thinking about doing this video that I wanted to do it with kind of a longer in the back and short in the front, but I wanted it to all go in one fell swoop, if that makes any sense. So I'm just marking with my chalk here, and this is really easy to get off. It's no big deal. You can even spray a water bottle on it and just clean that chalk off, but I'm going to be cutting that away anyway. So I'm kind of marking the back and the front, and then what I'm going to do is line up the shirt sideways. That would be armholes to armholes, and you know, it's kind of in the middle on the front and the back. And I'm just cutting around those markings I made with the chalk. But you know, with t-shirt material like this, you need to constantly be shifting it and making sure there's no wrinkles, and the first cut was perfect for this, so I was happy with that. So now I've got that, and this in itself would make a great crop top right here, but I wanted to do something a little funky, a little weird, so I decided to cut a line at an angle to make an opening in the front of the shirt. And I used my ruler to make sure that it was nice and straight. And you make sure if you get a big t-shirt like this that you save that bottom piece. I forgot to say that, but obviously you're going to see here that it's going to come in handy. So there we go, there's a little angled opening. And what I'm going to do with the leftover that I cut off of the shirt is I'm going to make kind of a casing or a backside to this. And it's really hard to see this because of all this black on black. But I'm just taking the piece of leftover and I'm laying it underneath each side, and I'm going to cut out that shape, and I'm going to pin it to it just to keep up with it so that I don't get confused at which way it goes or what goes where. So I'm just straight pinning it while it's sitting right there, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. So now what I'm going to do is add interfacing fusible interfacing, and I took my chalk and I marked which side goes to the raw edge of the shirt. You want to do that because with t-shirt material like this, you know, you're going to lose track of it. But you can see how messy my cut is, but you'll never know that. Whenever I get finished with the final product is going to be just fine. And once I've got everything together, what I do is go back in and trim a little bit, but I don't do it until I've sewn everything because there's so little material to work with here. And I'm just going to sew a line there and with right sides facing together. So you want to see the raw edge of the inside of the shirt and the raw edge where you fuse the interfacing on to the side of that casing or that piece that you're making. And I'm going to do the same thing with both sides of these, the opening of the shirt that I made. But first what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do here is lay it with wrong sides facing together and straighten everything up and just pin it. And I'm going to sew a double line. The first line is going to be really close to the edge. The second line is going to be measured by the presser foot against that first line, if that makes sense. Once I've got grommets in, I will go on the other side of the grommets and sew too, just to make it look neater. But you see me do a double line here, and then I'll do the same thing with the other side of the opening of the shirt. Now you see, that's what it looks like when you got that opening done. And you'll see me do the other one really quick, and then we'll move on to the next step.
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palm. Play with me like cats in the street. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free.
Now see, that's what it looks like finished, and I think that looks really cool. I'm liking it already. So now what I'm going to do is all around that raw edge of the bottom that I cut out, I am going to set my machine to a tight zigzag stitch. That's in between the 1 and the 2 for the length, and it's going to be a wider zigzag. If you have a machine like mine, you can do teeny tiny zigzag. But I'm just doing the normal size, the full size zigzag, but with a really tight, really close stitch. And what this does is create that kind of scalloping that makes it look really girly. I love it like that. Alright, so now I'm going to mark for my grommets. And I'm not going to do the grommet placement on video just because we just got new neighbors, and I took this outside to our picnic table out back to place the grommets because I didn't want to, you know, make them think I was a complete lunatic. But I will, later on, I think I'll do a video dedicated to placing grommets and things like this, grommets, buttons, snaps. So there it is. I didn't really do any measuring as far as spacing between each grommet. I just made sure that each side had their grommets lined up. And there is the finished product on my daughter, who was very reluctant to help me model the shirt. She had to go to work and she was grumpy. So anyway, it turned out great. It has lots of potential to be even better. I love experimenting with things like this. I hope y'all enjoy watching. Peace. Bye-bye, y'all.
You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free.